What up, everybody? It's Tony Wiggins here with Locked On Jaguars on a Friday, telling you the Jag fans would settle for 8-9. That's right. It's not Super Bowl or bust. They just want progress. And I'll explain why they are that way in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, everybody? Welcome to today's show here in the confines of the Tony Wiggins studio on Locked On Jaguars. We welcome you in to another episode of your daily Jaguars podcast, hosted by yours truly, as it has been now for almost 3 years, covering this team for about 12 years, and all of that stuff is about as pertinent as it can be when I tell you what's going on here today. But first, I'd like to thank you for joining us and making us your first listen of the day, and reminding you that we're free on all platforms. Anywhere you get a podcast, you're going to see Locked On Jaguars. Guess what? You ain't got to pay for it. Check us out on YouTube and subscribe to that as well. Look, I'm just going to talk about being honest with you and being straight up. Whether you're a Jaguar fan, whether you're a first-time listener, whether you are someone who's listened to the podcast a lot, it's going to sound a lot different from things that if you heard me on radio before. It's going to sound a lot different from things that I've said in the past. And there are reasons for that. So I'm going to discuss why it's not some sort of syndrome that the Jaguar fans have, but it's just a bit of reality that the Jaguar fans and the entire city have gotten to the point where they just want to know that they're on the right path. This is not some number that I just pulled out of the air, but I did sort of just say 8-9. There's 17 games that they can win 8 and only lose 9. I did kind of hint that that's satisfactory. So I don't want to give the impression that I don't want this team to win. And I don't want to give the impression that we have a loser's mentality is because we're willing to settle for a losing record. I don't want this to come across as if what I'm saying is that Jaguar fans don't believe that if the Bengals could do it, why can't we? I'm not saying that they don't believe that a lot of things that happened in the past and the people who were in charge didn't make mistakes. And now that they have a guy who I think is a good NFL head coach, and he has his head on the correct way and he's leading the team the way he's supposed to, or the way that we at least think he could, I'm not saying that all of their problems are going to go away. What I am saying is I think what's going to happen is this is going to be a slow walk towards progress. And I believe Jaguar fans are okay with that, because in the past, specifically 2017, there was it was a tease. A tease was we got to the AFC Championship game, and a lot of people believe they should have won the game because of a bad call or bad judgment by coaches kneeling before the half. But anyway, a lot of people believe that team was good enough to go to the Super Bowl and possibly even win it. I don't necessarily disagree. But I will tell you this. To have a sustained effort and a sustained football team that's going to be year in and year out giving you a chance to be competitive, I think folks around here would absolutely sacrifice one quick flash in the pan year, as magical as it felt and as good as it felt to have that stadium full and to see Bills Mafia come in here, raising all that sand and tucking their tails when we won the divisional game. And as good as it felt when this team went to Pittsburgh and came home and won, and as good as it felt when there were 40, 50,000 people, I guess that's how many it was, maybe, in the stadium watching the plane fly over. The plane, if y'all don't know, after they beat Pittsburgh, they flew home, and the pilot flew the plane over the stadium. I don't want to tell you what the name of the stadium was back then, but they flew the plane, and the players were looking out the window videotaping. The fans in the stadium lit up. And it was really one of the more magical nights I can recall for Jaguars fans. What hurts is that it was so short-lived. And I think part of as big a part of the angst that the fans feel and that anxiety they feel, it doesn't all come from the fact that they've had a losing record for mostly, except for like 3 or 4 years over the last 20. It's just that the times that they've come so close, the Jaguars have actually been to 3 AFC title games. Now try this on for size. They have been consistently bad, but the couple of times they were the times in their history when you can look back that they were pretty good, they were really, really good. They were really, really good, and they were knocking on the door of the Super Bowl. That's the wild part about it. It's either boom or bust. And 85% of the time, it's been bust. So that's why they won't tell you, and they shouldn't admit it. And I'm sound like a fool admitting it, but the thing is I used to sit on radio and I'd say, if somebody said, if you could take 9-7 right now, would you take it? And I said, no, because I'm living on the promise that they could go to the Super Bowl. Why would I want to put it with 9-7? 9-7 is mediocre. There are teams around the NFL that 9-7 gets the coach fired. I recall Denny Green won 10 games in like 10 of 11 years, and they canned him, right? I remember Lovie Smith won more games than he lost, and he got fired in Tampa. They called for your head. Mike McCarthy they were going to fire Mike McCarthy in Dallas, just like they fired him when he was in Green Bay. So why am I sitting here as a Jaguar fan telling you that the fans, why am I sitting here as a guy who covers the team? How about that? That people around here, even though they won't admit it, they'll settle for 8-9. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to do it in segment 2. And then in segment 3, I'll give you a hint that if they are going to do better than 8-9 or a middle of the road record, and 8-9 is just the number that I've chosen today, what has to happen? What has to happen for them to actually have magic? The thing is I don't know if the things that have to happen have already been put in place. That's a problem. It's a little bit problematic. So we'll discuss all of that here. I'm trying to figure out how can we get to the point where we get this syndrome out of our head. And I'll tell you in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars, after I tell you guys about BetOnline.net. After months of playing, college basketball has determined the top teams for the Final Four and will determine this year's national champion this coming weekend. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, you name it. BetOnline remains the best spot for all the latest sports developments, including podcasts and reviews for all the leagues this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sport wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action, because BetOnline is where the game starts. And you start here with me every day on Locked On Jaguars, and we definitely appreciate that. Really love for you to also check out the Locked On NFL podcast. That is on YouTube as well. Make sure you like and subscribe and go check that out. You can see me again on Wednesdays, but you can see some other guys Monday through Friday as well and get to know some of the football analysts from around the Locked On NFL network. All right, listen. Why do I really believe the fans would settle for an 8-9? Here's why. Because I broke it down earlier. Every single time they've been decent and good, they've been very, very good, and it's been few and far in between. I think that has come, those high moments have come, with the cost. And the cost is there have been too many bad moments. There have been too many top 10 picks in the NFL draft. There have been too many free agents that have been signed and those free agents not work out. There have been too many times where the promise of yesterday isn't fulfilled today or tomorrow, and they go from the ebb and the flow is just too much. They go from scintillating to basically purgatory, and they do that and they stay there for a while. So the reason why I've come to this conclusion that I believe that Jaguar fans would be willing to take an 8-9 is because it would represent, first, not being awful for the first time in a long time. If you're 8-9, that means you're probably competitive in 3, 4, or 5 of the games that you lost, so you were close. If you're 8-9, that probably means you won some games you probably weren't supposed to win. And for a team that was just 1-15 a year ago and has only won, well, a year ago they were 1-15, and last year 3-14. They've only won 4 games in the last 2 seasons, 4 out of 33. That bodes well. That looks good that if you're able to win some games that you're not supposed to win, and they won't be favored in a lot. So yeah, games that they're not supposed to win. If you win 8, that means you won probably a handful of games that you weren't supposed to win. So why would that be okay? Because I think it'll give you a little bit of a glimpse and a good feeling about actually going to the game and about the team that you cover and about some of the individual performances. And it'll let you know that you're not terrible, even though you still aren't good enough to compete for a title. But it'll give you hope. It'll give you hope. It'll give Jaguar fans hope that, okay, we're on the right pathway to getting better. Last year, you never had the chance to say that. This team never improved. We were only wishing that we were on the pathway because they had Trevor Lawrence, which is a franchise quarterback that they've never had. And then you had the idiot who's coaching the team that, say what you want to say, had a track record of improving every situation he ever went to in college. But you never actually felt it and you never actually tasted it on the field. You did a couple of years ago when you won that one game, when you beat the Colts, and then the Jaguar fans were happy, and then they went to Tennessee and they played lights out and were tied in the game with about 2 minutes to go. And you're like, okay, we're on the right path. And then the bottom fell out and they didn't win another game. They beat Miami this past season, played very, very well against the Bengals, beat the Bills. And after the Bills game, folks had this feeling, okay, I can kind of see what they're doing, especially on defense. The offense needs to get better, but at least the defense is lights out. And then a couple of weeks later, you go to Seattle and you get mollywopped, and the defense looked like they ain't never played defense again. So they've never really had, since Jack Del Rio, this consistent effort every single week that made it appear that they were a competent football team. 8-9 does that. I'm not being a loser here. I'm not sitting here saying that if you ask every single Jaguar fan that if they'd accept 8-9 right now or still leave the possibilities open that they could go to the playoffs, they're not going to always feel like me, because as I just self-admitted, I didn't always feel this way either. I really, really didn't. But I do a little bit now, is because I don't want to hit, of course everybody wants to hit the lottery, but I don't want whether or not I'm going to be comfortable for the rest of my life hinging on whether or not my number comes in. You got it? Meaning you're either going to be broke and homeless or you're going to be a multimillionaire. I'd settle for making $75,000 for 30 years. Right now. Offer it to me right now. Give me $75,000 for 30 years, and I'll be happy, and I'll deal with that, because there's a chance that I can build on it, I can save, and I can still, in my own little way, live like a millionaire, because there's a lot of that stuff I don't want anyway. But what I can't do and I can't deal with is this. Every 10 years, you're going to have 1 year of success, and then you're going to have 9 bad ones. That's the part that, I try to convey to folks. That's how it feels to Jaguars. Now, I know I always talk too about getting rid of that hangover and not having the hangover from yesterday and let it affect your expectation for today. And I believe in that, and I'm real. But 8-9 to me is not a hangover, especially if all of the other parts of all the other criteria and all of the other things that I said are met, meaning you're super, super competitive. You're doing it with a lot of young players. You win games you're not supposed to, and then you compete and battle in some more. And you have fans sitting on the edge of their seat, and you got people wanting to come back because you're giving absolute maximum effort. And then there will be individual performances where people can actually look and go, okay, this is what we have, this is what we have, this is what we have. The bottom line is the Jaguars fans, they never know concretely what they have and what they can count on, not only year over year, week over week. They just don't know. 8-9, even though it's not a winning record, would symbolize that at the very least, you have a team that gives you a shot to win. At the very least, you have a team that has something tangible that they can improve on. See, it's one thing to improve in your mind to believe that you're going to just get better just because you want to. It's another thing to believe you're going to get better because of demonstrated performance, and you know you can build on something that you have actually done. That's the difference between hope and wish, right? That's the difference. Hope comes from something. It comes from some belief and some faith that you have, man, that, hey, this is going to improve. And there's no better way to get hope than to actually go and do something and say, we can keep doing this and we can keep building on this. Instead of just wishing, like, man, I wish we were a winner. I wish we played better. I wish every free agent we signed was good. I wish our draft picks would work out. No. I think the Jaguars can actually get it done, but I'd rather have that slow, progressive walk. Now, look, I'm not going to turn the wins down if the wins come. Hey, if you want to go 12-5, 13-4, by all means, do it. I mean, I'm not going to walk away from anything, but it's more than about the record as much as it is about the effort and the competence and the progress that the teams make. Because a lot of times, whether you win or lose, it's just a ball bouncing one way or another. But really, what I'm really trying to say is, for the first time, I actually believe, and the Jaguar fans won't admit it because you never want to say what you settle for, right? I honestly believe that if you could honestly talk to the average Jaguar fan and ask them, what 8-9 do, they take it right now. They take it right now because they're so used to being bad. The hope and wish probably will lead to eternal optimism. And the reason why you can be optimistic is because they do have the number one pick in the draft. They did get some players they hit on last year. They do have Trevor Lawrence. And those are the reasons I think you could probably aim high in your thoughts and sort of believe in the team. I'm going to dive into that real quick. I'm going to tell you that if they're going to do better than 8-9, and a lot of people are saying, well, 8-9 is a big number. Let's just say I'm going to leave room for even better things to happen for the team, right? So if that's the case, I'm going to tell you in a few minutes all the little things that can happen that can actually make this even better than I'm describing. And I'll do it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars after I get into it with you about Built Bar. That's right. Built Bar is the absolute truth. You guys know my favorite. I put my hand up to my ear and you guys go salted caramel. You right. But what is giving it a run? I'm going to tell you that banana cream pie in those Built Bar puffs. Those things are absolutely delicious. It's a protein-infused marshmallow. Are you serious? That's right, a protein-infused marshmallow with a little bit of a different texture from the Built Bar. I like them both, actually. And the packaging, every time I pull one out, folks look at the packaging and go, what is that? You put that much care into the way that you present your product, you know the product is very good, and Built Bars are that. One reason is because they're covered in 100% chocolate. And, you know, I really don't have to give you another reason because everyone loves chocolate. I don't know anybody that doesn't love chocolate. And it's low calorie, high protein, and you can replace your candy bars with them. And they still have the texture of a candy bar and a treat, not some chalky, waxy protein bar that's overpriced like a lot of those things are. The macros are outstanding. Most of them have like 130 calories with 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 power pack grams of protein. Now, compare that to any candy bar, and the candy bars are usually double in calories, right? You don't want that. You want Built Bar. And the way you can get them is to go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Once again, the promo code is LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. And we thank you again for making us your first listener of the day here on Locked On Jaguars, your daily podcast, where you can find it on YouTube and everywhere else where you get your podcast. And it's free on all platforms. I'm going to tell you right now, we're about to talk a little bit about the draft. We're going to incorporate that in what we're talking about in terms of what can happen for the Jaguars to be 8-8, 8-9, or even better than that. We're just going to say even better than that. So we're not going to give you a number for above 8-9. We'll just go even better than that, okay? But you can check out Eric Crocker and Ryan Tracy on the Locked On NFL Draft podcast, also on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, and they'll break down all the information. Thibodeau had a workout today. All 32 teams showed up, so we'll see if some of the narratives around him change. But back to today's show, what I'm mentioning is we talked about how Jaguar fans will probably settle for a little bit of a mediocre record as long as the team showed progress, and that's totally against the way I always thought. I'm like, no, man, leave it open to go to the Super Bowl or whatever. But this hit or miss mentality that this team that you have, because the team is giving you that, this mentality that it's either all or nothing, it can get exhausting. It can be extremely exhausting. So for me, some of these things that have to happen. One, Doug Peterson actually has to be the right guy, right? There has to be a clear line of who the boss is and who this team's going to follow every single week. So that's one thing. The other thing is this: Trevor Lawrence has to develop, and he has to live up to being the prospect that everyone thinks he is. I think they're on the way right now with all of the guys that's in the building, whether it's Mike McCoy, Press Taylor, Jim Bob Cooter, all of these guys, and Doug himself, all of these guys that have quarterback experience, where they're going to really insulate Trevor and allow him to grow as a player and stop having to speak for a mess that has been made every single week, and to calm the restless natives like last year. He can just focus on football. He can focus on being a 21, 22-year-old kid who's just trying to learn his craft. He can get muscle memory in his mechanics. He can understand film study. He can understand when guys are open in the league, they don't have to be wide open. All of those things that allows him to be the leader on the field that we all expect him to be. They have to remain healthy. Last year they had injuries at running back. They were running guys in and out on the offensive line at some point. They have to remain healthy on offense so that they can develop those C's we always talk about: the continuity, the consistency, the cohesion, and all of those things. So we talked about the coach. We talked about the support staff. We talked about Trevor Lawrence. We talked about the health of their skilled players in their offensive line. The offensive line has to go from being average to being really, really good and being able to control the game. Depends on what they pick in the draft and how they're able to develop guys beyond what we've seen thus far, and if they can replace the leadership of Brandon Linder. Weapons. Outside guys have to earn the money that they've been paid, whether it's Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, and Evan Ingram. Guys just have to be better, and if they get a rookie, guys just have to be better, and they have to lift that entire room up and look competent and be able to make big plays. Defensively, get the identity that you're looking for. Find it. Play through your best players. I happen to believe that the best player this year is going to be Tyson Campbell. And if you'd have heard me say that if you heard the way I talked about him last year, you thought you'd never hear me say anything like that, right? So they have to hit on Tyson Campbell. The guys that they signed in free agency, they have to play sound football. At Mike linebacker or off the ball linebacker or at defensive tackle, those new additions that they got from Atlanta and New York have to really step up. Devon Hamilton, stay healthy and add on some of that promise that you showed. Josh Allen, be the Josh Allen you were as a rookie, right? That's what we want. And then whoever they draft, whether it's an edge rusher, whether it's an offensive tackle, and because of recent events, I'm starting to feel like it might be Evan Neal all over again, and we'll have to see. But they just got to get guys that just know how to play. Remain healthy, and don't be a team that believes so much in bravado and chest pumping and showing grills and stop doing all of the things that winning teams do before you able or actually win on the field. That's it. So I want the staff to come together, and I want the players to I want you to have swag because you earned it. Don't just have swag because you want to have swag, right? If they do those things, and guys like Walker Little and Jawan Taylor, if they lift their play up some and they remain healthy, there's no reason why this team can't make progress. That's a little more than 8-9 and a little more than some of the things that I mentioned. You guys don't need the progress because you are already arrived, man. You always hear every time on Locked On Jaguars, and we really, really appreciate that. Make sure that you tune in and stick in if there's any breaking news. I heard Komodo Toure, the defensive end, the edge rusher from the Colts, was in the city today. If he's seen the Jaguars and they sign yet another depth piece at edge, I might be thinking that they're not going to go edge with the first pick. So we'll see if they make another signing. But I don't have any breaking news as when this pollen is about to choke me out here. But I have any breaking news that comes up, and we'll get that to you as soon as possible. But until then, you guys continue to take care of each other. And remember, we're going to be all right, man. Jaguars fans, we're going to be all right, and we're going to make it. Don't let nobody tell you different. Take care.